I feel like I start all these videos the same by saying, I don't know how to start this video. I don't. I'm so used to being like, hi guys. But that just doesn't really feel appropriate for this. Okay, right, anyway. Hello. Today's video is quite a sensitive subject. I'm gonna be talking about the abusive relationship that I was in. It was emotional, psychological, physical, and for me the most impactful one was the psychological abuse. I was in this relationship a number of years ago. Thankfully now I am in a very loving and safe relationship, and I absolutely never thought that I'd be sat here making a video to put out onto the internet about it. I feel there's a lot of shame around it, and whenever I say shame, I mean that in some ways you think that it's your fault. You think that it's shameful that if you tell people about this situation you were in or the things that you put up with, like people are like, how silly is she or how stupid is she to like stay in that situation. And I completely get that, because before I was in a relationship like this, I used to think about like that. Another day I was talking to someone and I opened up about the fact that I was in an abusive relationship, and they said to me, when did the abuse start? And I said, right from the beginning. And then the question came that always comes, and it's, well, why did you stay in it? And I feel like people think that there's like an answer, like it's because of kids or because of marriage. That wasn't the case with me at all. And probably the simplest way I can describe it is, I feel like everyone can relate to this. At the start of a relationship, you might sense like a red flag. Someone might do something and you might be like, ooh, like, but you might be like, well, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, so you let that little thing slide, and then another thing happens and you let that slide, and then another thing happens and you let that slide, because every time it's just a little bit more, and it just like increases the severity of it. But because it's like being incremental, you know, it's slowly like got worse and worse and worse, that whenever it gets to the extremeness, it doesn't almost feel that bad. My experience is you don't realize how bad some of the things actually are until you're out of the relationship, because you're so absolutely brainwashed. I look back at the person I was and I was like that, I don't know who that was. At the time, me and my sister lived in different countries, and about a year into this relationship, we seen each other for the first time in over a year. And one evening we were sat in the living room just chatting. She burst into tears and I was like, oh my goodness, like, what's wrong? What's happened? And she was like, I'm crying because of you. And we'd just been having like a normal conversation. Like we could have been talking about a TV show that we were watching. It was like, you know, it was so out of context, her crying. And I was like, well, why are you crying about me? And she said, you're just not my sister. This isn't the person that I know. I was like, I don't know what you mean. She said, you know, my sister, how I talk about you to everyone, I say Alana's the bubbly one. She's confident, she's self-assured, she's passionate, she's driven, she's decisive. And she was like, this person that I've been spending time with the past few days is none of those things. You have no confidence. You can't even decide what you want to eat for dinner. You're questioning everything. She said, you know, you've been talking about your relationship. You're telling me these stories. Alana, like these stories that you're telling me, they're crazy, and it's so scary how much you don't even realize how crazy they are. And she lived with her best friend who has known me since I was younger, and you know, we're both really concerned about this relationship that you're in, because I don't think that you realize that you're in a very emotionally abusive relationship, and it's just completely stripped you of who you are. And I was very fortunate that my sister is basically in a job that's all about mental health. She understands all of these things at a time where I didn't know what emotional abuse was. I didn't know what narcissism was. I didn't know what gaslighting, love bombing, really didn't know what manipulation was. I didn't know what any of these things were. I ended up getting out of that relationship for a little bit, and then I ended up back in it again. I think a lot about why I went back to that relationship. One of the biggest things that I believe would have really helped me stay out of that relationship or got out of it quicker whenever I went back to it was getting the right help. So much of the things that I'm talking about in this video, it wasn't until I went to therapy that I realized the extent of the abuse and what I've been through. I've been getting therapy now for over a year and a half, and this video is in paid partnership with BetterHelp. If you're considering therapy, go check out BetterHelp. I have a link in the description that gets you 10% off your first month. And I know firsthand how difficult it can be to take that first step and start therapy, and you might really struggle to find a therapist. You might not find the right one in your area, and that is why BetterHelp is so good. BetterHelp connects you with a therapist that's trained to listen and give you unbiased advice. And I know that it can feel scary, maybe meeting a therapist face to face. And with BetterHelp, you can either do it on the phone, you can do it via a video chat, or you can even do it via messaging. To get started, you fill out a questionnaire with your specific needs, and in most cases, you're matched with a therapist within 48 hours. And the great thing is, if you find a therapist and they just don't feel right for you, because sometimes that can happen, with BetterHelp, you can change your therapist with no additional cost. What's also great is you can schedule your appointments for a time that's most convenient for you. Over 4 million people have used BetterHelp to live a healthier, happier, better life. If you think you might benefit from therapy, then go check out BetterHelp. I'm going to have a link in the description, and clicking that link not only supports this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of therapy. After I went back to that relationship, I stayed in it for a number of years. And if I hadn't have gone to therapy, I have no doubt that it would have continued to affect me for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% healed. I'm not. I'm still definitely on that healing journey. The biggest thing that I had to work on was the blame that I placed on myself for getting into that relationship, for staying in that relationship, for not getting help sooner. I really want people to recognize that anyone can end up in a relationship like this. And if anyone ever comes to you and tries to open up to you about the fact that they're in that relationship, just take away your judgment. Don't ask that question, why are you staying? Instead, maybe ask, how can I help? Or how can I be there for you? Because a lot of the time people just want someone to hear them, to validate them, and for someone to sit there and say, you're not crazy. I see you, I hear you, I get you, this is not okay. I was really fortunate that I did get out of that relationship. So many people don't. They stay in those relationships their whole lives. If you're in a relationship that you feel is abusive, there is help out there. And if you've been in one of these relationships, just know that it's not your fault. Stop beating yourself up. Anyway guys, that is a little bit on my story. I hope that you can take something away from it, even if it's just kindness. Just be kind to people and give your loved ones that time and that safe space to be able to open up to you without judgment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.